Michael Myers doesn't scare you because he kills people. He scares you because he can't be stopped. And somewhere in your brain, you already know you can't outrun everything. Here's what I mean. Every iconic horror villain targets a different primal fear, not a different kill count and not a different mask, but a different fear. Leatherface isn't scary for the same reason that Freddy Krueger is scary. The Xenomorph doesn't trigger the same part of your brain as Ghostface does. And the one thing that gets under your skin the most, the one you think about at 2 a.m. when the house is quiet, that's not random. That's a diagnosis. So here's the question for you today. Which one owns you? And what does that reveal about what you're actually afraid of? Here's how most people view horror villains. They look at body counts. Who would win in a fight?
Welcome to my nightmare.
Rankings based on sequels or creative kills. And now look, I get it. Those are a lot of fun. But it misses the point entirely. Horror isn't a competition, it's a test. Every villain is asking you a different question. And the one that terrifies you the most is the one whose question you can't answer. You can watch Michael Myers gut an entire hospital and sleep just fine, but Jigsaw makes you squirm. Freddy makes you afraid to close your eyes. The Thing makes you look at your friends differently for a week. Why do you think that is? 10 villains, 10 primal fears, 5 categories. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which one has your number. Most people think that horror scares you with jump scares and gore. And sure, those work on the surface, but a jump scare only lasts for about a second. Gore makes you look the other way. But neither of those explain why the villain lives in your head 20 years after the credits roll. What actually damages you is when a horror movie bypasses your frontal lobe and goes straight for something older, something installed in you before you even learned how to talk, to reason, or even to know what fear was. I'm talking about primal fears. Every single one of us is born with the exact same set, and every great horror villain is engineered to trigger exactly one of those. Here's what most people don't even realize. When a horror movie stops being scary as you get older, it's not because you're tougher. It's because you've identified the fear that the villain is targeting and you've made peace with it. But the one that still gets you, the one that you still can't watch alone, that's the fear that you haven't resolved. That's the lock you haven't opened. And at the end of this video, I'm going to share with you all which movie still gets to me every time I sit down to watch it. Yeah, even 40 years later. As most of you know that are subscribed to this channel, I design haunted attractions for a living, as well as work in the escape room industry. I've spent years engineering rooms built to trigger fears before your brain knows why. And here's what that teaches you very fast. You don't scare people by throwing everything at the wall. You pick one fear and you isolate it and you press on it until it breaks. What the best horror filmmakers understand is that whether they can articulate it or not is the exact same principle. John Carpenter didn't make The Thing scary by giving us a monster with teeth. He made it scary by isolating paranoia, so precisely that's what stopped you from trusting the movie itself. Wes Craven didn't make Freddy terrifying by giving him a claw. He made him terrifying by attacking the one place that you can't defend, your own sleep. Every villain is a scalpel, and here are 10 cuts. Let's start with the most fundamental level. Before you're a person, you're a body. 2 fears here predicate language. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre doesn't treat its victims like people. It treats them like an inventory. Early in the film, the first victim walks into that house and takes a hammer to his head. The camera doesn't linger on his face. It watches his body convulse on the floor like livestock. Then the metal door shuts. What makes Leatherface fundamentally different from almost every other slasher villain is that he doesn't hate you. He's not angry at you. He doesn't even see you as an enemy. He sees you as material. You're not a person that he wants to kill. You're meat that happens to just be walking around. The chainsaw isn't a weapon, it's a tool. And you're not being murdered, you're being processed. That's the primal fear. It's not dying, it's being dehumanized so completely that your death isn't even personal. You're just another carcass on a hook. And that sound design reinforces this. That chainsaw isn't a horror soundtrack, it's an industrial noise. The sound of a machine doing its job. Your brain registers this and it knows it. In the haunted attraction industry, that's why that sound triggers people to run. Now let's shift to a completely different kind of body horror. The Xenomorph doesn't kill you from the outside, it uses you from the inside. The chestburster scene is famous for the shock, but the real horror happens early, during the facehugger sequence. Kane lies there with this thing clamped to his face, and nobody can do anything about it. They can't remove it without killing him. They can't wake him. They just have to wait. Something is happening inside him that nobody can see, nobody can stop, and nobody even understands. The primal fear is violation of the body's boundaries. Something has entered you. Something is growing inside you, using your body for its own purposes, and you have no say in it.
What's it got down his throat?
I would suggest it's feeding him oxygen.
Paralyzes him, puts him in a coma. And keeps him alive. Now what the hell is that?
This isn't about pain. It's about autonomy. Your body, the one thing that's supposed to be yours, has been claimed. And Ridley Scott understood something crucial. The facehugger isn't large. It's not even overwhelming. It's small and it's intimate. It attaches to your face, inches from your eyes, breathing for you. You can't look away from it. You can't pull away from it. The violation is right there, inches from consciousness, and you're awake for all of it. If the first category attacks your body, then this one attacks something more personal, your thoughts, your identity, the one thing that makes you, you. Think about what makes Freddy different from every other slasher. Michael Myers has to find you. Jason has to catch you. Ghostface needs to get close to you. But Freddy just has to wait, because you will eventually fall asleep. Every human does this, and it's not optional. And when you do, you're entering his world, where physics don't apply, where your own imagination becomes a weapon against you. You can't lock a door against Freddy, and you can't stay awake forever. You just can't win.
I couldn't go back to sleep last night. So what'd you dream?
Forget it, Tina. The point is that everyone has a bad dream once in a while.
The primal fear is the loss of control over your own mind. Because sleep is supposed to be safe, the place where you're supposed to recharge, where you're vulnerable but protected. Freddy removes that protection. He turns the one place you can't avoid into the place that you're most exposed. And nobody else can help you. Your friends can't stay in your dreams. Your parents can't guard you while you're unconscious. You're alone in there, and the thing hunting you knows the terrain better than you do. The scariest Freddy scenes aren't the kills. They're the moments where the dream logic starts to break, where you realize something is wrong, but you can't wake up. Hannibal Lecter almost never kills anyone on screen. In Silence of the Lambs, his body count is actually minimal. He's behind glass for most of the film. So why is he one of the most terrifying villains ever committed to film? Because Hannibal Lecter doesn't hurt your body. He reads your soul. The famous scene isn't a kill. It's a conversation. Clarice Starling walks into his cell thinking she's interviewing him. And within seconds, he's interviewing her. He identifies where she's from by her cheap shoes and her accent. He knows she's ambitious, and he knows she's hiding something. He knows she's afraid of being seen as a rube from the sticks, And he uses exactly that against her.
Good nutrition's giving you some length of bone, but you're not more than one generation from poor white trash, are you, Agent Starling?
In 5 minutes behind the glass, he understands Clarice better than anyone has in her life.
And that accent you've tried so desperately to shed, pure West Virginia. What does your father do? Is he a coal miner? Does he stink of the land?
The primal fear here is exposure. Not being attacked, it's being known. Perceived so accurately, so surgically, that the person doing the perceiving has total power over you. Hannibal doesn't need a weapon. He has your file. He can see the thing that you're most afraid of, and he can make you talk about it. And you will, because on some level, you want to be understood, even if the thing understanding you is a monster.
A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
This is a different kind of dread because it doesn't spike your adrenaline. It just sits on your chest. Hannibal isn't threatening to hurt you. He's just threatening to reveal you. And in some ways, that's worse. Let me pause right here because by now something should be starting to click in your head. The 4 villains that I just walked through with Leatherface, the Xenomorph, Freddy, and Hannibal. They're not all scary in the same way. Not at all. If Leatherface terrifies you, the Xenomorph probably doesn't bother you as much. If Freddy keeps you up at night, Hannibal probably seems more like an interesting case study and nothing more. This isn't a coincidence. Your brain doesn't fear all of them equally because your brain doesn't register all of the same threats equally. The one that gets you is the one that's pointing at something you haven't dealt with. Something that you might not even know that it's there. Think of it this way. If you walk through a haunted house and the guy with the chainsaw jumps out, your heart rate probably spikes for about 4 seconds and then you start laughing. But if you walk through a room where someone is just staring at you, it's not moving or speaking, it's just tracking you with its eyes, then that feeling stays with you probably the rest of the night. And why do you think that is? Because a chainsaw is a known quantity. Being watched isn't. Your brain can process loud noises with sharp objects. It can't process, why am I being studied and I don't know why. That's the difference between a surface scare and a primal fear. Now let me show you 6 more. But before I do that, if you've made it this far and you like what I'm doing here, consider hitting that subscribe button. Doesn't cost you anything, helps me out quite a bit. If you like anything horror related, reviewed, or analysis just like this, you won't want to miss what else I'm putting out there. But let's get back to the other 6. These next villains don't attack your body or your mind. They attack your ability to trust. I've called The Thing the most psychologically terrifying horror film that's ever been made, but let me be specific as to why. The Thing doesn't scare you by being scary. It scares you by making you doubt everyone in the room, including yourself. You're trapped in an Antarctic research station. Someone in the room has been replaced by an organism that can perfectly imitate any living thing. Memories, personality, and the voice. You can't trust anyone. You can't trust the blood test because the thing could have sabotaged it. You can't trust your best friend because he might have been replaced 5 minutes ago. And the real horror is that neither can he trust you. The primal fear is that paranoia is self-destructive. The humans in the Thing don't lose because the creature is stronger. They lose because the trust required to fight it is the very thing the creature has already destroyed. By the time they start working together, it's too late because they don't even know if they're all still human. This is the fear that makes you look at your friends sideways for about a week. It's not about the gore. It's about the collapse of the social contract. The unspoken agreement that the person next to you is who they say they are. The Thing removes that guarantee, and once it's gone, everything else falls apart. Putting Ghostface on this list might almost seem silly to you because it's just a person in a costume that trips over furniture. Multiple people have been Ghostface. So it's not supernatural, it's not unstoppable, and it's not even particularly competent. So why does Ghostface work? Because Ghostface is someone you know. The opening scene of Scream is a masterpiece. Casey Becker is home alone when the phone rings. It's a stranger's voice, which is at first flirtatious. Then he becomes threatening. And then, the moment that makes the scene, the voice tells her that he can see her.
Do you have a boyfriend?
No.
You never told me your name.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
What did you say?
He's not somewhere else. He's outside of her house, and he's watching her right now. The person that's inside her ear for the last 10 minutes is physically feet away from her body. The primal fear here is that the danger is already inside your perimeter. You've locked the doors, you've checked the windows, and the threat was closer than any lock could stop. Ghostface isn't an alien or a dream demon or some unstoppable force. Ghostface is your classmate. He's your boyfriend, your friend's older brother, the person that you've already let inside.
There's a formula to it. A very simple formula. Everybody's a suspect. Telling you, the dad's a red herring.
Wes Craven understood that there's something uniquely violating about a threat that wears a human face, specifically a face you trusted. The mask isn't the scary part, okay? The phone call doesn't make it any more scary. The scary part is when the mask comes off and it's someone that you normally open the door for. These two villains don't rely on speed or surprise. They rely on the fact that you know they're coming and you still can't stop them. I opened this video with Michael Myers. Now let me come back with the full framework. Michael Myers walks. That's his whole thing. He doesn't run. Jason runs. Leatherface runs. Ghostface has to sprint. But Michael Myers walks. And yet, somehow, he's always right behind you. And that's not an accident, okay? John Carpenter designed Michael Myers as a physical embodiment of something that you can't outrun. And it's not because he's fast, but because he's patient. He doesn't need to catch you immediately. He just needs you to eventually get tired or make a mistake or let your guard down that one time, and he will still be walking towards you. The primal fear here is inevitability. The thing you know is coming. The thing that you've been warned about. The thing that you've tried to prepare for, you've tried to fight, and you've tried to escape, but it doesn't matter because it's still coming and there's nothing you can do about it. The dread isn't in the moment of attack. It's in the hours before, watching him get closer, knowing that there's nothing you can do, nor anywhere you can hide. Michael Myers doesn't scare you by being violent. He scares you by being certain. The Ring gives its victim something no other movie does.
Have you heard about this videotape that kills you when you watch it?
What kind of tape?
A tape. A regular tape. People run it, I don't know.
A schedule. 7 days. After you watch the tape, the phone rings and a voice tells you exactly how long you have left. 7. Not soon, not eventually, just 7. You can count them. You can even put them on the calendar. You can watch the sunrise and sunset exactly 7 times, and then it's over. The primal fear here is the fixed deadline. Knowing exactly when something terrible is about to happen and being powerless to stop the clock. Most horror films let you believe that you can actually fight, that you could run, hide, arm yourself with something, even come up with a plan. The Ring takes all of that away by making the threat not about what's chasing you, but about when it arrives. And what makes this thing psychologically brutal is that the deadline creates hope. because every day that passes without the thing happening feels like maybe it won't happen at all. That just maybe you're different. Maybe the curse isn't real. And then the seventh day comes, the TV turns on by itself, and you realize hope was just another part of the torture. Samara doesn't have to chase you, she just has to wait. And you have to watch the seconds drain out of your life one by one, knowing exactly which one will be the last. This final category is the most psychologically sophisticated one, because these villains don't just attack you, but they judge you. They find you wanting. And somewhere deep down in there, you're wondering if they're right.
Hello, Amanda. You don't know me, but I know you. I want to play a game.
Jigsaw is the most misunderstood villain on this list. People think he's about traps, but he's not. People think he's about gore. He's not even about that either. Jigsaw is about the moment before the trap activates. The moment his victims realize the vice they're strapped into exists because of something they did. Every Jigsaw victim gets a tape, and every tape starts the same way. Then Jigsaw tells them exactly what they did wrong. He names their sin, he itemizes their failure. He holds up a mirror and forces them to look at it.
So far in what could loosely be called your life, you've made a living watching others. Society would call you an informant, a rat, a snitch.
The primal fear here isn't the pain, it's the judgment. Being told by something that clearly has power over you that you have failed, that you're just a bad person, and that you've wasted your life, or you've hurt people, or you've took things for granted. And now you have to pay. The trap isn't random, it's personalized. It's designed specifically for you based on your specific moral failings.
Before you are 6 of your most valuable associates, the ones who find errors in policies. Their findings result in over 2/3 of all applications denied.
That's what makes Jigsaw uniquely disturbing, is that he's not a monster, he's an accountability mechanism. And the part of you that feels uncomfortable watching Saw isn't reacting to the blood. It's reacting to the question Jigsaw plants in your head. If someone designed a trap based on your life, your choices, and your failures, would you survive it? Or would you deserve what you got? Pennywise looks like a clown, and that's the entire point. Clowns are supposed to be joyful and safe. They exist to make children laugh. But Pennywise takes that deeply ingrained association, clowns equal harmless fun, and violates it so completely that your brain short circuits. Something is wrong, and this thing that looks like it should be safe, it's radiating danger. Your pattern recognition in your brain is screaming two contradictory things at once, and neither of them is winning. That's the uncanny. Not fear of the unknown, but fear of the known that's just twisted enough to be unrecognizable.
Beep, beep, Richie. Come back anytime. I'll show you how to slow down.
Pennywise doesn't look like an alien. He looks like something from your childhood that's been corrupted. And the corruption is worse than any alien because the alien was never supposed to be a safe place in the first place. The clown was. But there is a deeper layer here. Pennywise specifically targets children, not because children are physically weaker, but because children don't have the mental defenses that adults do.
Do you want a balloon too, Georgie?
I'm not supposed to take stuff from strangers.
A child can't rationalize Pennywise. A child can't tell themselves it's just a guy in a costume.
Well, I'm Pennywise, the dancing clown. Pennywise? Yes, meet Georgie. Georgie, meet Pennywise.
A child sees what's actually there, and what's actually there is an implosion of safety itself. The thing that's supposed to protect you is now hunting you instead. The primal fear here is the betrayal of the familiar. When something you've recognized as safe reveals itself as predatory, and the damage isn't just from the threat, it's from the betrayal, because you'll never look at a sewer drain the same way again. Just like you'll never look at a clown the same way. Pennywise just doesn't scare you in the moment. He just permanently contaminates something innocent. Now, here's the honest part about all of this. This framework of the 10 villains, the 10 fears, 5 categories, it's not all absolute. Some villains blend categories. Some films deliberately mix fears for a more complex effect. But the framework is useful because it forces you to ask a question that most people never ask, which is why one particular villain scares me, but the other one doesn't. Once you start looking at horror this way, and not just as a ranking or a competition, but as a tool, you start learning just a little bit more about yourself that you didn't necessarily know that you had an issue with. And honestly, that's the point of this awesome genre, is that horror isn't escapism. It's exposure therapy. You sit in a dark room and let something threaten you, and when the credits roll, you're still alive. You've passed the test, but the test only works if you're being honest about what it's actually testing. Because here's the fun part, is that the villain you fear most is a mirror. It's not telling you what you're afraid of in the movie. It's telling you what you're afraid of in your actual life. If Leatherface gets under your skin, you might have control issues. A deep discomfort about being reduced to something less than a person, where you're treated more as a resource instead of a human being. If Freddy Krueger haunts you, you might struggle with vulnerability, the terror of not being able to protect yourself even if in places that you should feel safe. If Jigsaw makes you squirm, you might be carrying guilt. The fear that if someone judged you in your life honestly, you wouldn't pass. Now you might be sitting there telling yourself, well, none of these villains scare me at all. I can watch all 10 of these and feel nothing but being entertained. Then either you've done the work and you've reconciled those fears, or you've buried them so deep that horror movies can't reach them anymore. And honestly, I'm not sure which one is more concerning. Your fear is a compass. It points to the things that you haven't dealt with yet. And horror movies, I mean the really good ones, the ones that stay with you for years, they give you a safe way to look at those things without looking away. That's the awesomeness of this genre, is that it makes it more than just about entertainment. It's a controlled burn where you walk into the fire voluntarily and walk out knowing something that you didn't know before. So the next time you watch a horror villain that gets under your skin, don't ask, why is this movie so scary? Instead, ask yourself, what is about this movie that is trying to tell me about myself? Now, if you made it this far, you're probably wondering which movie still gets to me to this day. And for me, the one movie that still gets to me 40 years later is the 1985 George A. Romero classic, The Day of the Dead.
We've been punished by the Creator. He visited a curse on us.
There's so many layers to The Day of the Dead, but when you boil it all down, it's about the fear of isolation and the fear of being trapped in a way that there's no way to escape, and you're stuck with whoever you're stuck with. That's scary. So until next time, go check out my other videos. Like, subscribe, comment, all that other good stuff. But more importantly, don't get too scared. Take care, guys.